It started as a simple observation. Kieran, my roommate, was always a heavy sleeper. When we first moved in together, I thought it was odd how still he was at night, but I chalked it up to his exhaustion. He had a lot on his plate: schoolwork, part-time jobs, and an endless stream of responsibilities. I figured he just fell into such a deep sleep that his body didn't need to move much. At first, I didn't mind. In fact, it was kind of reassuring. He wasn't the kind of person to snore or toss and turn. I liked the quiet, but after a few months I began to notice something else, something subtle but unsettling. I never heard him breathe, not once. There wasn't even the softest of sighs or the faintest sound of air escaping his nose. His chest didn't rise and fall like mine did when I was asleep. No rhythmic, comforting noise to reassure me that he was still, well, alive. It was as if he wasn't breathing at all. At first, I brushed it off. Maybe he was just an incredibly quiet sleeper. But as the weeks went on, my curiosity began to grow, gnawing at the back of my mind. It became a quiet obsession, one I couldn't ignore. Kieran's stillness grew more pronounced with every passing night. His body remained unnaturally rigid. If I stayed up late studying or watching TV, I'd glance over at his bed occasionally, half expecting to see him shift or adjust his position. But he never did. He always lay there, completely motionless, like some kind of lifeless statue. I started to wonder if something was wrong with him. I mean, how could anyone sleep like that for hours on end without moving at all? I couldn't help but feel a creeping sense of unease each time I caught sight of him, lying there in his bed, eyes closed, completely still. One night I couldn't take it anymore. My suspicion had grown too large to ignore. I needed answers, so I did something I'd never done before. I set up my phone on his desk, aimed it at his bed, and hit record. I didn't think much of it at the time. Other than that, I was curious. Maybe I could catch him in the act of breathing. Maybe he was just so deep in sleep that I couldn't hear it. The next morning, I woke up feeling uneasy but shrugged it off. I was about to go to class when I remembered the footage. I had almost forgotten about it. I quickly grabbed my phone and watched the video. The first few minutes were just as I expected. Kieran lying in bed, motionless, his face serene and peaceful. I watched closely, looking for any sign of movement, but there was nothing. It was unnerving how still he was, how almost lifeless. But then something happened. The clock in the corner of the video changed to 3:33 a.m., and that's when the terror set in. Kieran's eyes shot open. His gaze was not one of sleep or grogginess. No, it was sharp. His eyes were wide, fixed directly at the camera, staring into the lens with an intensity that made my heart race. His pupils were dilated, his gaze unblinking. It was like he knew I was watching him, even though the phone was positioned on his desk, out of his direct line of sight. I froze, my fingers trembling as I watched the footage. Kieran didn't blink. His eyes remained locked onto the camera, unmoving, as though he was fully aware of every second of the video. I felt a chill crawl down my spine, the air in the room growing thick and suffocating. His stillness, which had once seemed benign, now felt unnatural, sinister. I paused the video, staring at his eyes. They seemed too wide, too open. They didn't look human anymore. The longer I stared at the footage, the more I started to question my own sanity. How had I not noticed it before? How had I lived with someone who didn't even breathe at night? I turned to look at Kieran in his bed. He was still asleep, his chest motionless, his face expressionless. I hadn't heard him move, hadn't heard a single breath. I didn't tell him about the footage. In fact, I didn't tell anyone. It felt like I had stumbled onto something that I wasn't meant to know. But that night, something inside me shifted. I started paying even closer attention to Kieran's behavior. Every night I would lie awake in bed, watching him. I needed to know if what I had seen on the video was real. I needed to understand why he was so still, so lifeless. Days passed, and slowly I began to notice something else that filled me with dread. Kieran blinked less and less. At first I thought it was just my imagination, but then I started counting. His eyelids stayed open longer than they should have. Sometimes I'd stare at him for minutes, waiting for the faintest sign of a blink, but none came. I watched him closely one night as he sat at the desk, working on his laptop. I could see the faintest twitch in his eyes, but there was no blink, no sign of life. It was like his body had become a vessel, but the spirit inside him was slowly fading. It wasn't just the blinking that concerned me. It was the way his body remained unnaturally rigid. I began to notice how he never shifted, never adjusted himself. The stillness, once a comfort, had now become an omen. I started to question whether Kieran was even alive. Was he a ghost? A shell of a person trapped in his own body? Was he some kind of creature that had learned to mimic the behavior of a human without actually being one? I couldn't keep up the facade anymore. One night I confronted him. It was late, and I had stayed up, watching him once again, my mind spiraling with fear. "Kieran," I said, my voice shaking. "Are you okay?" He didn't answer. He just stared at me, his eyes wide open but not focused. His gaze was distant, like he wasn't really seeing me. I felt my heart race. "Kieran, please, talk to me." He blinked. Once. But it was slow, deliberate, like it took effort. "I'm fine," he said, his voice hoarse, almost like it had been pulled from deep within him. I couldn't tell if he was lying or if he even knew what was happening, but I knew one thing for sure. Whatever was happening to Kieran, it wasn't normal. The next morning, I found the footage from the night before. But this time, something new was there. Something that filled me with pure terror. In the video, Kieran's eyes weren't just open at 3:33 a.m. No, they were moving. They weren't staring at the camera anymore. They were scanning the room, darting around in a way that was unnatural, almost animalistic. And then they fixed on me. His gaze, cold and unblinking, seemed to follow me. He knew I was watching. He always knew. I ran out of the room that night. I haven't returned since. I don't know what Kieran is anymore. I don't know if he's even human. All I know is that he never blinks. Not anymore. And I can still feel his eyes on me. I never thought something as routine as brushing my teeth could become a horror show. It started innocently enough. Just two broke guys, me and Arjun, trying to survive grad school in a roachy, one-bedroom apartment off campus. The place was small, walls too thin, and the plumbing screamed like a dying animal every time you flushed, but it was home. We had our rituals. Every night, after binging random YouTube videos or half-assing our papers, we'd wind down together in the bathroom. We'd brush side by side, crack dumb jokes, share gossip from school. It was weirdly comforting, but one Thursday night something changed. I was half asleep, barely registering my own reflection when I noticed it. Something off. I paused mid-brush and stared harder. My reflection was there. Toothpaste foaming at the edges of my mouth, eyes a little sunken from too much caffeine, and too little sleep. But beside me, nothing. Arjun stood right next to me, brushing like normal. But in the mirror it was just empty air. No shape, no blur, no shadow, just me. Alone. I blinked a few times, rubbed my eyes, even reached out and waved slowly. My reflection mimicked me perfectly. But next to it, still nothing. I glanced at Arjun. He was humming some Hindi song under his breath, oblivious. I didn't say anything. It had to be the lack of sleep, right? Finals were killing me. But when I woke up the next morning and went to wash my face, the mirror told the same story. Still no Arjun. That's when the dread crept in. I began testing it every morning, every night, watching carefully. No matter the time, no matter the light, Arjun had no reflection. I kept silent for a few days. What the hell was I supposed to say? "Hey man, you might be a vampire or a ghost or something, no big deal." But paranoia started eating at me. I began avoiding him, making excuses to use the bathroom alone. But he noticed. "You good, bro?" he asked one night while we watched something on Netflix. "Yeah," I muttered. "Just tired." He stared at me for a beat too long. Didn't blink. Just watched. The next night I couldn't hold it in anymore. We stood at the sink, brushing again. The same routine. I braced myself and said, "Arjun, do you know your reflection doesn't show up in the mirror?" He froze, toothbrush still in his mouth. Then slowly he turned to me. His eyes looked darker than usual. He pulled the toothbrush out of his mouth and whispered, "Some things don't belong in mirrors." I felt a chill rush down my spine. He didn't laugh, didn't smile, just stared. "What does that mean?" I asked, heart pounding. He turned and walked out, brushing as if nothing had happened. After that, things got weirder. Our lights began flickering at random. My phone would buzz at 3 a.m., only to show blank messages. Sometimes I'd wake up, and Arjun would be standing by my bed, watching me. I told myself he might be sleepwalking, or maybe I was dreaming. But then I found the photos. One night, after he left to grab groceries, I went through his drawer. Yeah, not cool, I know, but I was scared. Inside, under a bunch of notebooks, I found a weathered black journal. The pages were filled with symbols I couldn't recognize, like Sanskrit mixed with something else. There were hand-drawn sketches, figures with no faces, reflections with black eyes, and photos. Lots of them, all of me, sleeping, eating, in the shower. My stomach turned. In every single photo, Arjun's shadow appeared behind me, but never his face. It was always just a blur. I slammed the journal shut and shoved everything back. That night, I didn't sleep. I tried to confront him the next morning, but he acted normal, too normal. So I planned to move out. Called my cousin in Jersey, begged to crash with him. The night before I was set to leave, Arjun knocked on my door. "Want to brush one last time, together?" he asked, smiling. My blood went cold. I should have said no, should have run, but I didn't. I followed him to the bathroom. He stood beside me. I stared at the mirror. Still nothing, just me. I turned to face him. "What are you?" His smile faded. "You noticed too late," he whispered. "The moment you saw my absence, the mirror saw you." Before I could react, he smashed the light. Glass shattered. Darkness swallowed the room. And then I felt it. Not a hand, not a touch, a pull. Something yanked me forward, hard, toward the mirror. I resisted, grabbing the sink, screaming. But my arms felt like they were dissolving, like my body was being vacuumed into a black hole. Just before I lost grip, I caught one last glimpse of the mirror. My reflection wasn't mine anymore. It was Arjun, smiling. 1 year later, the apartment is quiet now. Arjun lives alone. But if you ask the landlord, he'll tell you there's a weird stain on the bathroom mirror that won't wash off. Looks like a handprint, sometimes two. And every now and then, when the lights flicker at night, Arjun will brush his teeth, alone, and smile, because he finally has a reflection again, and it's still screaming from the other side. I'd never felt more victorious than the day I signed the lease. A spacious one-bedroom in the heart of the city, rent almost suspiciously low, walking distance from work and, miracle of miracles, quiet. The landlord was an old man with a limp and a handshake like paper. He looked at me through fogged glasses and muttered, "Tenants don't stay long. City's not for everyone, I guess." I thought he was just being cryptic to scare me off so he could charge more next time. The apartment was on the 6th floor, a little dusty, sure, and the wallpaper in the bedroom peeled like it was trying to escape. But it had charm. After I unpacked, I celebrated with cheap wine and pizza, watching my reflection grin back at me from the black screen of the TV. I slept soundly that night, the kind of deep sleep that only comes from exhaustion and relief. That was day one. Day 4 is when the receptionist said it. I'd been coming back from a grocery run when she smiled at me from behind the marble counter. "Your roommate didn't come in with you today?" I paused mid-step. "Roommate? I live alone." Her smile wavered. "Oh, but I saw someone else enter your place last night." My chest tightened. I forced a laugh. "Maybe you saw someone from the floor below?" She looked genuinely confused. "No, I remember faces. Tall guy, dark hoodie. Thought he was with you. Came in around 2 a.m. That was the first night I locked my bedroom door. Day 5. The TV was on when I came home. I hadn't turned it on that morning. In fact, I rarely used it. But there it was, blaring static like something out of a bad horror movie. The remote was on the couch. I called the landlord. "There's no way someone else has keys, right?" "Nope," he answered flatly. "Only you and me." "What about past tenants? They don't usually come back." There was a pause. Did something happen? I hesitated. "No, just making sure." Day 6. The fridge door was ajar. Half the leftover curry I'd made was gone. The milk carton was empty and placed carefully back on the shelf. I stared at it for a long time. I started locking every door and window before bed. I placed a broomstick under the front doorknob. I even bought a small motion-activated camera and pointed it at the hallway leading to the living room. Day 7. The camera didn't record anything. But I found a single damp footprint next to my bed. Just one. Like someone had stood there watching me. I didn't sleep that night. Every sound became a threat. Every creak of the old pipes made my muscles tense. I clutched my phone and stared at the door, expecting the handle to turn. It never did. By day 10, I was unraveling. The receptionist avoided my eyes now. I noticed her whispering with a colleague when I walked past. My coworkers said I looked pale, haunted. I brushed it off, but inside, I was unraveling. That night, I set a trap. I tied a thin thread across the hallway, waist height, invisible in the dark. If anyone walked through, it'd snap. In the morning, it was broken. The camera still showed nothing. I checked the footage frame by frame. No one came in. No one left. Just me, brushing my teeth, going to bed, and the sound of the thread snapping at 3:41 a.m., captured only by the mic. I checked under the bed, in the closet, in the kitchen cabinets. Nothing. I started leaving the apartment during the day, spending hours at cafes or walking aimlessly. But I always had to come back. I started talking to myself, loudly. I wanted whoever or whatever it was to know I wasn't afraid, but I was. Then came day 14. I was brushing my teeth when the bathroom light flickered. In the mirror behind me, for a split second, I saw him, a tall figure, standing in the hallway. I turned. No one there. I dropped the toothbrush and backed into the corner of the bathroom, heart pounding. I started sobbing, repeating, "I live alone, I live alone," like a chant. That night, I left. I went to a motel and didn't come back for 2 days. When I returned to grab my essentials, I found a note. On my bed, in my handwriting, it said, "Don't leave me alone again." I didn't remember writing it, but it was my pen, my notepad, my crooked G and slanted E. That night I didn't leave. I sat in the corner of the room with a knife in hand, eyes darting to every shadow. Around 2:53 a.m. I heard the sound of breathing, deep, rattling, behind the bedroom door. Not outside, inside. I held my breath. The closet door creaked open slowly, but nothing came out. Day 19, I went to the police. They did a check. No sign of forced entry. Nothing on the security cameras. They asked if I was under stress, suggested therapy. I asked to break the lease. The landlord didn't argue. As I packed my final bag, I noticed something carved faintly into the underside of the kitchen table. It said, "I was here first." I moved into a new place across town. Modern, well-lit, constantly noisy. I don't mind the sounds now. They remind me I'm not alone. Because silence is where he lives. Every now and then when I leave the shower, I still find a single wet footprint near my bed. Just one. Like he's still watching, waiting. I always thought moving in with Jake would be easy. We'd been friends since high school, played on the same soccer team, went to the same college. He was the reliable type, quiet, organized, paid his bills on time. The kind of guy who made you feel like life was under control, even if yours wasn't. So when Jake texted me one morning, "Hey, can you help me move my bed today? Carpet guys are coming at 3 p.m." I didn't think twice. His room was nothing special. Minimal furniture, a few posters of classic horror films, some shelves full of books I never saw him read, and his bed pushed into the corner beneath the window. We grabbed the frame, lifted it with a grunt, and started sliding it away from the wall. That's when I saw it. A small black leather-bound book, wedged tight behind the headboard. Jake didn't notice it right away. I bent down, grabbed it, and felt a strange chill pass through my fingers as I pulled it free. It was old, worn and cracked with frayed edges. No title, just the feel of something. Forgotten. "Hey," I said, holding it up. "You lose a journal or something?" Jake looked at it, puzzled. "Never seen that before." I laughed. "It was behind your bed, man." He shrugged. "Not mine. I should have let it go." Later that night, I couldn't sleep. That book sat on my desk, like it was daring me to open it. I knew I shouldn't. I told myself I'd give it back to Jake in the morning, but curiosity always wins, doesn't it? I flipped it open. The first pages were normal, handwriting in faded ink, neat and organized. 8 a.m., feed Oliver, buy more cat food. Work at 10, woke up tired again. Dreams are getting worse. The man with no eyes stood at the end of my bed again. My stomach tightened. At first I thought it was just someone's creative writing exercise, like a horror story hidden in a diary. But then I kept reading. My name was on the next page. "Liam knows. I saw it in his eyes today." I blinked. I flipped ahead. He thinks I don't notice the way he watches me, smiling, always smiling. What's he hiding? The writing got sloppier, ink smudged, words scratched out, rewritten, then my name again. The letters grew larger, filling entire pages, carved into the paper with such force the pages tore. Then came the drawings, charcoal figures hanging from trees, mouths open in eternal screams, eyes hollow, blood dripping from their fingers like ink. One figure, a man tied to a bed with something carved into his chest. My name. I slammed the book shut and tossed it across the room. What the hell had I just read? The next day, I asked Jake again. "Are you sure that journal wasn't yours?" He just stared at me. "Why are you asking again?" I paused. "Because it had weird stuff in it. Stuff with my name." His expression didn't change, but something in his eyes did. A flicker, like a shadow passed through him. "Maybe it's just coincidence," he said flatly. "Lots of people are named Liam." I dropped it, but I started locking my door at night. A week passed. The nightmares started. I'd wake up gasping, drenched in sweat, heart hammering. Each dream worse than the last. Always the same figure, black silhouette, no eyes, standing at the foot of my bed, whispering. "He sleeps too deeply." Sometimes I'd wake up and swear someone had just left my room. Once I found my closet door wide open, and I always kept it closed. I tried to throw the book away, drove to a dumpster 3 blocks over, tossed it in, and walked home feeling lighter. It was back on my desk the next morning. Jake changed too. He stopped talking as much, started walking around the apartment at odd hours. I'd hear him pacing in the living room at 3 a.m., whispering to himself. Once, I caught him staring into the bathroom mirror, not moving, just staring for almost 10 minutes. I knew I had to leave, get out. Something was wrong with this place, with him. I packed a bag. When I zipped it up, I heard a thump behind me. The journal was on my pillow. I didn't remember bringing it in. My hands shook as I flipped to the last page. Just 4 words, written in something brown and crusted. "He sleeps too deeply." That night I didn't sleep at all. I tried to confront Jake. I showed him the book, opened it to the violent pages, the drawings. My name. He looked at it, then looked at me. "That's not what I see," he said. "What?" He turned the journal toward me. The pages were blank. "I don't see anything." I snatched it back. The drawings were gone. My name, gone. Just empty, yellowed pages. I felt something tighten in my chest. "Are you messing with me, Jake?" His face darkened. "I think you need rest," he said. "You look tired." That night I pushed my dresser against the door. I didn't sleep, just sat with a bat in my hands, watching the door. Sometime around 2 a.m. I heard footsteps, slow, deliberate, outside my room. Then the knob turned, once, twice, stopped. Then came the voice. Not Jake's, something deeper. "He sleeps too deeply." I held my breath. Silence, then a scratch, like fingernails on wood. I must have passed out eventually. When I woke up, sunlight was coming through the blinds, the bat still in my hand. But the dresser had been moved, and the journal was on my chest. I moved out the same day, didn't say goodbye, didn't explain, just packed and left. I tried to tell my friends what happened. They laughed, said I'd been working too much, reading too many horror books, said I needed therapy. Maybe they're right, but sometimes, when I close my eyes, I still hear the whisper. And a week ago, a package arrived at my new place. No return address. Inside, that same black journal, and this time, it had a new page, written in dried red. "You woke too early?" Every night, without fail, I wake up at 3 a.m., not because I'm a light sleeper, but because of the sound. It's always the same. The soft creak of the front door, opening, followed by the faint shuffle of footsteps down the hallway. And then, the whispering, faint, almost imperceptible, but there, always there. At first, I thought it was just a quirk of my roommate, Josh. He'd been living with me for almost 6 months, and while he wasn't exactly the most outgoing guy, I never had any reason to suspect anything strange. But that all changed when I noticed something I couldn't explain. It started innocently enough, just Josh getting up in the middle of the night, as if in a daze. He'd sleepwalk before, wandering into the kitchen or even the living room, and I thought nothing of it. But one night, I decided to stay awake a little longer to see if it was a regular thing. And that night, I saw him walk straight to the front door, which was odd because the door was never left unlocked. He walked right past me, as though he didn't even see me. His eyes were glazed over, his movements stiff and mechanical. As he reached the door, I noticed him pull out the key from his pocket. He didn't even fumble with it. He slid it into the lock with the precision of someone who had done it 1,000 times before. The door opened, but he didn't step outside. Instead, he stood there, staring into the empty hallway, his body rigid. The air around us seemed to grow colder, and the faint sound of whispers, soft, almost like a breeze, drifted in from the dark corridor beyond. The door didn't close, but Josh didn't seem to notice. He was just standing there, as if waiting for something or someone. I held my breath, watching in disbelief. After a few moments, he turned around slowly, walked back to his bedroom, and got back into bed, his face expressionless. I couldn't move. I lay there, trying to convince myself it was just a sleepwalking episode. But deep down, something felt off. The next morning, I decided to confront him. I casually asked Josh about the strange habit. His response was calm, almost too calm. "What do you mean?" he asked, as if genuinely confused. "You've been getting up at 3 a.m. every night and walking to the door. It's like you're sleepwalking. You don't even remember it?" I watched him closely, trying to gauge his reaction. He blinked, his brow furrowing in genuine confusion. "I don't remember anything like that," he said. "I haven't gotten up at 3 a.m. Maybe you're just hearing things." But I knew I wasn't imagining it. I could feel it in my gut, like something was brewing just under the surface, waiting to come to light. That night I decided I wasn't going to let it slide. I had an old camera I hadn't used in years, tucked away in a drawer. I set it up in the hallway, just outside Josh's bedroom. I aimed it directly at the front door, ensuring it had a clear view of the hallway and the door handle. If Josh was sleepwalking, I would get proof. I fell asleep, but my mind never truly settled. At exactly 3 a.m., the sound of the door creaking open jolted me awake. I felt the familiar chill in the air, and my heart began to race. I stayed as still as possible, holding my breath, praying that this time the camera would catch something that would make sense of it all. What I saw on the footage the next day still haunts me. It starts like every other night. Josh, in a trance-like state, gets out of bed. His eyes are wide open but unseeing, as if he's in another world entirely. He walks slowly to the door, never once faltering. The camera captures every detail, his hand reaching for the door handle, the sound of the key turning in the lock. But this time, something changes. As soon as the door opens, I hear something on the footage. Whispers, soft at first, then growing louder, as though they were coming from just beyond the door. A voice, low and guttural, murmurs words I can't understand. But it doesn't stop there. At exactly 3 a.m., Josh speaks. "It's time. You can come in now." His voice, though quiet, is unmistakably not his own. The words hang in the air for a split second before they're swallowed by the whispers, which now fill the hallway like a gathering storm. The air turns thick, and I can almost feel the cold radiating off the screen, the temperature plummeting in my room as if the recording had somehow captured the very essence of fear itself. Josh stands there, motionless, waiting. Nothing happens for a long moment, but then the whispers grow louder. It sounds like 1,000 voices, all calling out at once, all yearning to come inside. Josh takes a step backward, slowly, deliberately. He seems to be listening to something I can't hear. His lips move again, but this time the words are indistinguishable, a low muttering that sends chills crawling down my spine. The door swings wide open, and for a brief moment, the hallway is lit by nothing but darkness. Then I see it, a figure, tall and shadowy, standing just outside the door. The shape is human, but there's something wrong about it. It's like the shadows themselves are bending around it, and its presence seems to suck the light out of the air. I can't make out its face, but I can feel its eyes on me, even through the screen. And then, as quickly as it came, the figure disappears. The door slams shut. I sit there, staring at the footage, my heart hammering in my chest. My hands are shaking. I rewind the footage again and again, but it's the same each time. I watch Josh's face as he walks back to his room, his body stiff and mechanical. He gets back into bed like nothing ever happened, as if he has no memory of the darkness that just visited. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to tell, who would believe me. The next night, I took a different approach. I decided to confront Josh head-on. I showed him the footage, the whispers, and the figure at the door. I waited for him to say something, anything, that would explain what I had witnessed. His face went pale as he watched the footage, his eyes wide with disbelief. But then he looked at me. His eyes were different, like there was something buried deep inside that he hadn't been willing to admit. "I don't remember any of it," he whispered, "but I feel it. I feel it every night, calling to me." I didn't know if it was him talking or something else, but I knew one thing for sure. Whatever was waiting outside that door wasn't just coming for Josh. It was coming for both of us.